All right, welcome back to the Jon Gil Podcast Show. And on this episode, I'm super excited to bring in the best guest that we can never bring onto the show. And that is my dad, Juan Guillermo Gilgil.
Thank you.
And before we begin, as always, please, if you always like what you hear, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It would definitely mean the world to us. So today we have, as I mentioned, a very exciting guest on the show. His name is Juan Guillermo Gilgil, the one and only my dad.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and today, we're going to be discussing his book he just wrote. It's called Yo, Vivencias Periodísticas y Empresariales de un Pionero en Chicago. So you can see the book right here. And we're going to let him do a little bit of the talking. But for those of you that don't know, he's an entrepreneur, real estate mogul, international news reporter, and now an international bestseller writer and author. So, Pa, thank you for being on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy. I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of being in your show, which is great to know that you are following kind of my steps.
That's right.
That's what I used to do. And basically, that's exactly right. I started here in Chicago many years ago. It was in 1982 when I first arrived to the city of Chicago. I remember back then, there is a company called Leo Burnett Advertising Agency. Mm-hmm. They are in downtown. They have a huge building on Walker Drive. Yes, I think they are on Walker Drive, somewhere on the river. It's a beautiful building, so I came to work for them. Back then, I had never been in Chicago, obviously, because I was born in Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, a great, beautiful city where I am living right now.
That's right.
And I had just graduated with a master's degree and MBA from Xavier University.
And let me just chime in because it's not that you just graduated with an MBA. At what age did you graduate? Please let the audience know.
Well, at
with that MBA
time I was like 21.
21 with an MBA. So that right off the bat, it just is ridiculous.
Yeah, it was very interesting because most of my classmates used to work for Procter & Gamble, which happens to be the largest company in the world regarding mass products. Like, almost everybody
recognizes
I'm sure
the Procter & Gamble.
Everybody at home has a product that sells or is sold or manufactured by a Procter & Gamble factory somewhere in the world. They are all over the world.
Right.
So all my classmates used to work for that magnificent company, and I was the kiddo on the block. I was just a little kid. I learned a lot from them. So I sent over 400 letters all over the United States asking, for work. I wrote to Gillette, to banks I sent to Ford Motor Company, General Motors, everywhere. You name it, I sent letters to those companies. And many of them answered back. I went and interviewed with them. Mm-hmm. They were very kind, very nice. They paid for my airplane ticket. They paid for my taxi ride. They invited me for lunch at the cafeteria. Everything was perfect. But there was one company, this company called Leo Burnett Advertising. I had never heard of them. And they said, well, why don't you come over to Chicago? I had never been in Chicago. We would like to talk to you. I said, oh my God. Well, let's take a look. I came over to Chicago, and it was funny because I used to work at the cafeteria, So I finished my shift. At the beginning, I was a dishwasher. Then I was the supervisor. And at the end of the semester of the year, I was managing the cafeteria. So,
No, you scaled up.
Yeah. I went up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I finished my shift. And I went to the airport. My ticket was waiting for me. And they gave me my ticket, first class. I had never flown first class in my life, obviously. I liked it a lot. It was nice, very nice.
Yeah, I can imagine. So.
Very nice, from Cincinnati to Chicago, first class.
Unbelievable.
They offered me filet mignon, they gave me champagne, they gave me all this. It was an hour flight. I said, what is this? This is what successful people like and do. I like this.
I can get used to this.
Yeah, I can. This is not a big deal. This is great. So I arrived to O'Hare Airport, and I was looking, for a taxi ride or something like that. But guess what? There was somebody there. Mr. Gil. I said, hey, I'm Juan Gil. Please follow me. I guess he took me to his limo, and from the limo, something which I had never ridden before, a limo, huge. I said, I only had seen them on the movies. Period. I said, oh, this is getting better and better. They took me to the Westin Hotel on Michigan Avenue, right in front of the John Hancock building. And they gave me a suite. For me? And come on, I come from the cafeteria. I just finished washing dishes, and here I am. So it was great. In the evening, a beautiful. Oh, Mr. Gil, be ready at 6 o'clock, 6:30. Somebody from the company is going to pick you up and take you out for dinner. Great. Perfect. A beautiful lady came and picked me up. She was gorgeous. Beautiful. I said, oh my God, I'm in trouble now. What am I going to do? We went to a restaurant called the Pump Room. It's right there in downtown by Dearborn, in that rush area street.
It's Gold Coast, right?
Pump?
I think that's in Gold Coast area.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's right there. As far as I remember, I didn't see any prices on the menu. It was that exclusive that not even prices were posted. We ate, we had dinner, we talked about everything except what the job was going to be. She told me, you're going to interview with the top people at the company, and they're looking for somebody to create a team, an international team, to manage the agencies worldwide. Because Leo Burnett grew with acquisitions. They have blue chip companies. You know what blue chip companies are? Those that are in the Wall Street, New York Stock Exchange, and they are usually multinational companies, and they do business all over the world. So if they are, say, in Europe, well, they have to have advertising agencies doing the advertising for them in Europe. If they are in South America, they need people doing the advertising for them in Spanish and in French and German. And
right.
They need agencies all over the world. So Leo Burnett grew through acquisitions. Everywhere Leo Burnett's clients went, Leo Burnett followed them. But that's the problem. When you acquire companies, they don't have the same philosophy. You see, they are good, they are the best, they have good creativity, they have everything, but the philosophy is different. And Leo Burnett at that time wanted to have the same culture, the same corporate culture throughout the world. And in order to have the same corporate culture, the same thinking, the same way of doing business, you must teach from scratch, right from scratch to your people.
Right.
When you bring people from somewhere else, well, they already have their attitudes, their way of doing business, they so they wanted to finish all that, and that's why they hired us to go to these different places throughout the world and try to implement the Leo Burnett philosophy and way of doing business.
Wow.
So they hired us, 8 people. I was the only Latin American person from Colombia. The other were from China, from Germany, Italy, from, well, all over the world. So that's how I ended up in Chicago. But later on the plans changed. They were going to send me at the beginning to Spain, and they decided to do it to Colombia. And back then I couldn't go back to Colombia for personal reasons, so I decided to stay here, and that's when I started my own business, my own advertising agency called Gil Advertising. And then I started teaching.
At around the same time.
Around the same time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because my problem was that I was single. I don't
see that as a problem. I see that as a...
No, not really, because I was single and very young. I was only
That's what I was going to ask. You were still young at that time.
Very young. I was 22, 23 years old,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years later.
So let me tie into a little bit about our general theme with the show is that we the great thing about these interviews is that it gives a lot of inspiration for the audience. Like, it shows them the entrepreneurial spirit, and really what you're exemplifying that through your story. So I just want to tie it all into that, is that you all can hear at home right now that he came from Colombia, goes to Cincinnati, to the U.S. for the first time, doesn't know anyone except for his uncle, and then he ends up getting first class, going to the limo, being one of 8 and the only Latin American to be part of the team that was then going to open up in Colombia for Leo Burnett.
Correct. No,
at 22.
No. But listen, no, they existed. They
right.
They had agencies all over.
Sure.
They wanted to have management,
okay.
With the Leo Burnett philosophy, and not the managers that they acquired,
Of course.
Which is different. But what you are saying is right. The bottom line is that you have to believe in yourself, no matter who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just happen to be a South American, Colombian born, but I always believed on my... I believe in me. I believe that I could do it. I could do anything, and I have an accent, but you know what? Nobody cares. And I discovered that in this country, no matter who you are, you can be brown, black, yellow, small, huge, you name it. If you have something to offer, somebody's going to appreciate that, and they're going to value that, and they're going to respect that, and you earn it.
That's right.
Something that I have noticed lately is that people want to be respected just because, I don't know, they have nothing to offer, and they want to be adored or respected for, they haven't done anything. So you have to earn it. You have to earn it through your work, through your sacrifice, through showing that you can give. Not
right.
Just because you are here, I am a human being and I deserve to be treated as God. No. And I knew that from the beginning. I knew that if I wanted to do something good, I had to show it and I had to earn it. And that's what I did. And thanks God, people appreciated that, and they still do.
And they still do. Yes. And that's the beauty of it. And, and that's great because, it showed right away that you were valued already from all the companies that were willing to say, okay, come work with us.
But the first person that has to value that is yourself.
That's right.
You have to value yourself and believe that you are worth it and you can do it, and you have to, then you show it to the rest. But the first person is you.
Well, that's part of what we actually talked about in one of the other segments was there's different principles of success in life, and one of them is self-confidence.
Correct.
If you do not have self-confidence, well, first off, self-confidence resonates. I mean, people are going to see that in you. And another one is initiative and leadership, which is, it's funny. I always say you exemplify all of the principles of the book that we have here, which is the Law of Success. But we're gonna keep tying in some of that into it. So you decided to say, okay, well, for personal reasons, I'm going to leave Leo Burnett. So you went to go.
So I went and started Gil Advertising, and I was single, and I said, well, I got to do something. I mean, I cannot just finish work and go to a bar, Michigan Avenue, and get a couple of beers. And
right.
No. I got to do something. So I went and applied for a job at San Agustin College, which is a bilingual university here in Chicago. And I started teaching there. Mm-hmm. That was a great help because that's where I met your mother, as a matter of fact. She was my student. I remember very well in marketing. She didn't pass. She did very poorly.
Oh my gosh.
But I married her. And that's Sebastian, your oldest brother, was firstborn. Then you, and my little girl Natalie was the last one from that marriage. And I have to show who is here with us today. My beautiful granddaughter, Sophia.
Come here, Sophie. Say hello.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi.
Hi, honey. You are the most beautiful girl on earth.
Thank you.
I love you very, very much.
Thank you.
So you see, she's Sophia, who is with us today. I married her and I started a company, and then I took an office in downtown. I went to work for a company called Omar, which was a Hispanic advertising agency, because I wanted to have a Hispanic advertising agency in the city, but I needed to learn. I didn't know much about the Hispanic market.
So you went out to
I had no idea about the Hispanic market because Leo Burnett was all, for the general market.
Right.
So I learned with them, and then I opened up my agency.
Well, that's a lesson. Let me just chime in real quick. Again, that's another lesson. If you don't know, you go to the best company out there and you learn from the best too, right? So
of course. I mean, you just cannot improvise. Right. You have to learn. You have to study.
It became almost, and it's a mentorship. The importance of mentors and having people, you've got to learn the system, and then you can go out on your own.
You mentioned a very important word, because all of us see it in school. They talk about mentoring, they talk about coaching, and we see it and we read about it, but we don't pay attention to that. And I learned that in Leo Burnett. Coaching obviously is the art of teaching how to do things, how to do it right. But mentoring has nothing to do with the job. Mentoring has to do with having a good friend, somebody who is looking after you. Somebody is like your father. Your father is always watching that you are doing the things right, that you are getting right, going to bed early, that you are not spending too many weekends out, that you are spending the money correctly. I mean, that's what a mentor does. A mentor in a company is always is watching after you. And when you have a little problem, either sentimental or economic, any problems, you go to the mentor. And the mentor is there to help you grow.
Right.
To help you grow, because it's in his best interest or her best interest that you grow with the company. And obviously, mentoring, if you happen to have a mentor, you must be thankful and happy that they are watching you, because that means that they worry and want you become a leader all over, period. So, it's a good program. Mentoring is an excellent program. Anyway, so I went to teach, and I started teaching there. Later on, one of my dean Also took me to DePaul University. He was a teacher there too. So I had the opportunity to teach a couple of classes at DePaul University.
What courses were you teaching?
Economics. Basically, I had an MBA. That's what I graduated from. An MBA, Master in Business Administration, with emphasis in marketing. But you have to study everything: macroeconomics, microeconomics, finance, accounting, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically know a little bit of everything, and you are able to, And I was very good at teaching. I still do. I still teach.
Mm-hmm.
I am not teaching economics now. I'm teaching English. To whom? I am teaching English to my fellow Spanish-speaking people in Colombia, where I'm living right now in Medellin. But let me finish the story with Leo Burnett. I started then that company. I started doing television production.
With Omar?
I'm sorry?
At Omar Advertising?
No. They own a television station.
Okay.
There was a television station, WBBS Channel 60, back then. I mean, I don't know if it is still now. It might be there still operating under a different ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they used to own that station. It was the first Spanish TV station owned, or Hispanic TV station owned, in the whole United States. So Marcelino Millares was the owner of that station. So I did television, but I didn't know anything about television. So I learned it. I learned from them. It was funny because we needed to do commercials for the clients, but it cost a lot of money. So I said, my gosh, how can I go and do commercials for these people? So Franz Simon, a Haitian from Haiti, used to work at Channel 60, and he told me, why don't we go out and rent a camera and we go out and shoot the commercials ourselves? I said, really? Can we do that? I said, sure. So we all went out and rented a camera, and we went out and shoot, not one commercial, but we used to shoot 7, 8, 10 commercials in a day. So the price went down from $1,500, $2,000 to $300. For each
recording.
For each business that wanted to have a commercial. So that's where I learned television. I started doing television. Later on, I said, well, I'm not going to pay anymore for renting. Let's buy. But I didn't have any money, obviously, to buy equipment. It was TV equipment is expensive. So I remember that there was somebody called a friend. I didn't know that person, but he knew me. His name was Cristobal Santos, and an Ecuadorian that was very successful in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So he met me, and he liked the idea of having an advertising agency with television production. So we got together, and the three of us, Franz Simon, Chris Santos, and I, started Oro TV Productions and Advertising. We started a business, and we were the agency of record for Harold Washington. Harold Washington used to be, or was, the first black elected mayor of the city of Chicago. And we had the honor of being the agency of record, advertising agency of record for his election. And when that happened and he became mayor of Chicago, nobody could believe that. And so we were recognized, and suddenly we had a lot of people calling us and wanting to do business and so on and so forth. And later on, the person with the money, Chris Santos, I found out, supposedly we're supposed to be three shareholders, 3 owners, and we found out that he had written only one name, his name.
Oh, wow.
It was a great disappointment. So I said, oh, thank you very much. And Franz and I just said, we don't want to do business with you anymore. Forget it. Goodbye. And we just left. We left everything behind. The equipment, the cameras, the desks, everything. We left. The office was on Peterson Avenue and Lincoln. Peterson and Lincoln. Beautiful offices, his building. But we left. And I said, well, now I have to get money to start my own agency and my own TV production. And I started getting shareholders. I used to sell one share for $2,500. I figured out that I needed at least 100 shares sold, 250,000 back then. I'm talking about 1985, something like that.
So you didn't go to the bank and say, give me a loan. You decided to raise capital through shareholders.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Well, I didn't have anything to back me up.
Right.
I mean, even though I had a house, the house where you were born, I mean, the same house, 6327 North Trip, the same house where your brother and you and Natalie were born is still there. Your mom is still there.
Well, let me just say that's so fascinating because now everyone, their first option is let's go to the bank. Let's get a loan, right? And yours was, first off, you had something devastating happen, which was your friend kind of betrayed you guys because, I mean, you know, and that's actually a lesson in and of itself, right? Be careful with who you partner with. Have everything in writing and just, you know, even if you're friends, make sure it's in writing. But secondly,
it was in writing.
And it was in writing, but somehow he did something. He must have pulled a stunt.
No, I mean, people insist in having things in writing and all that, which is okay. But
at the end of the day, if you're a good person,
it's not important. True. Believe me. I mean, it's good to have it in writing, but
if they're going to screw you, they're going to screw you. Exactly. Bottom line.
Exactly. That's the bottom line.
Exactly.
But
you came through. So my point is that you had this thing devastating happening to you because I would have been devastated personally. I would have been devastated. And then you say, okay, well, you have two things that can happen at that point. One, you give up and you say, well, screw this.
No.
All right. But that's never an option. But a lot of people, sometimes they go into this crazy,
depression
path. Yeah, they go to a crazy path. But the other option is you say, okay, screw it. We have to figure out how to survive. And then to have the creativity and the imagination, which is another principle of the laws of success, which is having imagination, which also goes into creativity. You say to yourself, well, I'm not going to do a loan, but what I'll do is I'm going to create a business plan, find investors, and sell my shares. God, that's freaking genius. And then how old were you at that time?
Oh, 22, 23 more or less.
23? So those that don't see, Locke is behind the screen. He's around the same age. And we're both looking at each other like, that's unbelievable. So, I mean, it's just interesting. It's interesting. No, I know, but even today that you can still do that. But no one thinks, okay, well, people do. I mean, you go to Silicon Valley, you have, and they find investors, but that's great that you had the audacity to think, you know what? I'm going to go out and find investors for this company.
But it's not easy. It's not easy,
right? So let's hear about that.
And I didn't sell the 100 shares.
Sure.
I only was able to raise like $40,000, which is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But with that $40,000 represented almost $400,000. Let me tell you why. Because with that money, you are able to put down 10% or whatever you buy.
Right.
You go to a furniture store and you can buy $20,000 worth of furniture and you put $2,000 down and then you finance the rest.
Sure.
So when you have, whatever money you got, multiply that times 10.
Leverage. That's leverage. Yeah.
That's the money that you really have, because everybody is going to let you have the product, period.
For down payment, yeah.
For the down payment. You can put the down payment, obviously. If you have failed to make payments in the past and your credit is ruined, well, I'm sorry, don't expect to get a good treatment. Because you really, you blew it. But if you are somebody who is responsible, somebody who is always on time, and people trust you. I trust people, and people usually trust people until they show the opposite. When you really show that you are dishonest, well, that's the end of the war. Yeah. But when you are straight and you do what you say you are going to do, you have no problems anywhere. Not here in the United States, in Colombia, or in China. People trust good people.
That's true.
Trustworthy. That's the name of the game. Even on the dollar. The dollar says, in God we trust. You trust. Trust is the key of the war.
That's right.
So that's how I was able to raise all the equipment, everything. And I went to the television station I told you before.
Mm-hmm.
They sold out to some investors, and they emptied the offices they had in downtown, 312 West Randolph. That office back then in 1985 cost $7,000 a month.
Jesus.
It was more than 4,000 square feet. And I went to the management of the building, and I said, listen, I want to occupy those offices. Really? Why? No, I want to do television. I have this advertising agency. Okay. You know how much they are? Yes. How are you going to pay? Well, I don't know. Let me try it. Let me do, back then I had already bought a house for, where you were born. Mm-hmm. So I went and took a line of credit on the house. I said, okay, here is a letter of credit. Why don't you let me use that for at least for 6 months? And why don't we do this? That's too much money. Why, instead of paying $7,000, because what you got there is a television studio with beautiful offices, but who's going to occupy that right away? Nobody. Not too many people are in television. Face it. It's going to take you a while for somebody to come and occupy those offices. Let me try it. And they said, okay, do it. And I was able to be there for almost for a year. When the rent increased to $7,000, then I got in trouble. But I had achieved my goal. My goal was to have everybody come in, see those beautiful offices, and of course, Mr. Gil, what else do you need? Tell us. You need. Why don't you keep this beautiful piece of equipment? The latest camera in the market. How much is it? Oh, it's only $80,000. $80,000. Yeah, but you can have it. They saw the offices, they saw everything, and
that's amazing.
And they said, yeah, keep it. So I achieved my objective was to be able to build something, and that helped me to do it. When the time to pay the rent and for everything else came, I was in trouble. So I took everything with me because nobody was going to take the equipment back. I took everything with me, and guess where I went? You remember?
Yeah, back home.
Back home. Where? To the basement.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to the basement of the house and kept working. Like nothing had happened. I kept fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and I had already sold my image. I found...
Right, and within that year, I mean, you were presented to different politicians, so many people throughout the city. And I mean, it's unbelievable because you created that image, and that's another just important thing. You not only walk the walk, but you you talk the talk. You had the space, you had the presentation, and that inspired confidence in others too.
Right, but I mean, you gotta have something but you have to believe in yourself.
Right.
I mean,
it's not just the space, though.
It is not the bluff. I mean,
right.
I'm not saying that you should bluff people. No.
Right.
But you should strive. I mean, Leo Burnett had a saying, you should always reach for the stars, You might not reach them. But your hands won't come out full of mud either, So always try to reach for the stars. So, okay, you might not reach them, but it's not going to,
Yeah.
Mud, ¿cómo se dice? How do you say? Mud, M-U-D.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned, and I tried to do it. And yes, we used to do many politicians. We used to do, oh my God. Well, I already told you Harold Washington. But back then it was Jim Edgar for governor, James Thompson for governor. We had also Tim Evans for mayor of Chicago. We had Juan Solis, mayor of Chicago. Luis Gutierrez, who became the first congressman, Hispanic U.S. congressman. Now, Jesus Garcia, Chuy Garcia, who is at this moment today U.S. congressman. And I remember back then he started being an alderman, and I worked on his campaign. I worked for him, and Millie Santiago, who was also an alderwoman for the city of Chicago. She not only was my friend, but she also worked at the office in our agency. She helped us. She is a very nice professional person. Later on, entered politics and was very successful. And many people. It was a good ride.
Gutierrez.
Gutierrez. Many people at one of the most admired person by me. This person who was Senator Miguel del Valle. He also became clerk of the city of Chicago. I mean, many people. Later on, having the equipment and having all that, I encountered a very interesting client who I also work for. The name of that company is Televisa. Televisa from Mexico. They came to Chicago looking for somebody. Oh, I forgot to mention somebody, Dukakis.
Michael Dukakis.
Michael Dukakis, he ran for president in 1988, 1997. We did his campaign in the Hispanic market. And that's when Televisa comes. Because back then, Televisa came to Chicago looking for a person to do his reporting, as a correspondent. But they didn't say that they were Televisa. They said, we are looking for somebody to work for us. So they went to the different stations, TV stations. And obviously, nobody is going to leave a good job to go to work for somebody who they don't know. So they call me and say, listen, there is somebody here from Mexico looking for a correspondent. Are you interested? Of course I am. I went interview with them. I remember we spent almost the whole afternoon with Mr. Alcala. His first name, I forgot at this moment. And Mr. Alcala, I interviewed with him, and he said, okay, please send me a story for Monday. I was doing Michael Dukakis' campaign. And that Monday, I had already scheduled a room to meet Mr. Dukakis at Midway Airport. He came just for that meeting to meet with me and do or film or record a television commercial in Spanish. So I went there, met Mr. Dukakis. Mr. Dukakis, how are you? Blah, 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 blah. We did what we had to do. And then I told him, Mr. Dukakis, can you give me an interview for Mexican television? He said, sure, of course. And he spoke Spanish. So we sat down and we spoke like for half an hour about many subjects. And I sent that to Mexico. Well, they stopped. Literally stopped the whole television, the whole programming in Mexico to show the exclusive interview of the Democratic candidate for the presidency of the United States, Mr. Michael Dukakis.
Wow.
I got the job immediately.
I can imagine.
Well, and I also got in trouble because then they say, okay, what are you going to send tomorrow?
Oh, my God.
what are you going to do tomorrow? I said, oh, my God, now I am in trouble. Fortunately, there was a good friend working at the City Colleges of Chicago, Eduardo Cadavid. I called him and said, listen, Eduardo, I need an interview. You got to tell me about something, about, give me an interview. So I went over there, and from then on, It snowballed. Exactly. That's what I have here in this book. The first chapter, as a matter of fact, first chapter on this book, Vivencias Periodísticas, living experiences is the name in English, the title in English, and also entrepreneurial for a pioneer in Chicago. That's what I talk about in this book, the first chapter, Iraq, because I was with your grandmother, that and unfortunately, your grandmother, my mother, passed away last September 1st. Just
a few weeks ago, yeah.
Few weeks ago, I was traveling with her. We were visiting Israel. We were in Israel with a friend of mine, Linda Cardona, and her husband, Tom. Anyway, remember him? Tom. Yeah, good friends of us. Anyway, we went to Israel. While we were in Israel, there was the conflict with Iraq started to get hot again, So I called Televisa in Mexico and said, listen, I am in Jerusalem right now. You want me to go to Baghdad and follow up what was going on? They kind of like a little bit. The problem was that they also had reporters and correspondents all over the world. They had correspondents in Jordan. They had correspondents in Israel, in Syria. All over the world. So for me to come from Chicago and enter that territory was not well seen. But it was also kind of a good idea because nobody knew me. I didn't have any conflicts. I was neutral.
Right.
That was the key word. So they said, yeah, go. Keep going. Go to Baghdad. So and I narrate that story in this book. That's the first chapter. Well, it was very interesting.
I know in one specific segment or chapter, you got close to death, didn't you?
To whom?
You almost got killed, or there was some, or you've had some close calls.
No, let me tell you this. No. Thanks God. No, that was not the case. What happened is that after 3 or 5 days, I went to Amman. I flew from Jerusalem to Amman. I had to change my passport because coming from Israel to Iraq, showing a Jewish stamp on a passport it's like kind of signing your,
death warrant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had to change my passport for a new one. And I sent my passport to the Iraqi embassy. And they took 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And the passport never, it didn't get to me. I was waiting for it that never arrived.
Mm-hmm.
So people in Televisa Mexico said, I'm sorry, come back. Go back to Chicago. Okay, so that day, I remember I went to the market and I bought everything. I bought, you remember, I brought back carpets. Souvenirs and all that. Yeah. So I said, well, I'm going back home. When I went to the office around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, they said, Gil, guess what? What?
Your passport.
Here is your visa.
Oh.
You can go back. They allow you into Iraq. I said, so at that moment, my mind was not anymore in Baghdad. My mind was in Chicago with you guys. You were just little kids. Mm-hmm. That was 1980, something like that. No, I forgot the day. Yeah. 1990, something like that. 99. Well, it's in the book. I'm forgetting dates. So when your mind is set for something and suddenly everything changes, I said, oh my God, I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get killed. So I remember very well that I called home, I called you guys, and actually I called to say goodbye. I called to say, obviously I didn't tell you that, I didn't say, sure. I'm here, I'm going to die. No. But internally, I felt that that was the last time I talked to you guys. And I just went to Iraq. I also felt very scared going over there because I thought there was a flying zone. Flying zone means that no airplanes can.
Oh, a no-fly zone.
No-fly zone.
Right.
You just can. So you have to go to get there on the road. You have to take to go by car. So they hired me a taxi. This guy drove very fast. He was going like 160, 200 miles per hour. And I felt very scared that we were going to have an accident. And also another problem, and I was very scared, was because Televisa sent me back then like money, $10,000 cash, because there were no credit cards in Iraq. Nothing. There was nothing. Nothing. So you had to carry cash with you. And the driver knew that I had cash on me. So I felt this guy is going to kill me somewhere in the desert, throw me somewhere in the desert, and that's going to be the end of the story. Well, fortunately, that didn't happen. And I arrived to Baghdad. I did my job. I interviewed Kofi Annan. Many times we have to run. We had to run and cover in the, how you call them? When you go underground?
Bunker.
Exactly. We had to run into the bunkers and stay there. No, I was not close to get killed. Thanks God.
Thank God, yeah.
But anyway, after a while, I was getting, you're not accustomed to the food. The food is very spicy. It's nice. It's good. I like it. But after eating so much of the same thing, I felt like, I was smelling funny. Right. I went to the bathroom and I said, oh my God, I'm getting...
Well, yeah, I see.
Yeah, what's going on?
That's on. That specific part is on page 85, chapter 3. If you want to get into specifics.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, really, but it happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
I get it.
You know, after you eat so much of.
So afterwards, you decided this is it. I have to head back.
No, I have to hit back.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing happened. United States decided not to attack. Decided that that Kofi Annan. That Mr.
Saddam
Hussein was gonna comply with the no nuclear arms agreement and so on and so forth, and that everything was cool and dandy.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I remember because my hotel was not too far from the main office where all the journalists were. And I was walking back to the hotel, and I noticed a caravan of suburbans leaving the hotel. I say, where are you going? Oh, we are leaving. We are going to Amman, to Jordan. I said, oh my God, can I go with you guys? Please, please, please take me. They were Australians, Australian crews were leaving. So I said, sure, come on, go ahead. I ran, went to my room, pick everything up, pay my hotel, and jump into the car. And I didn't. When I arrived in Amman, I called Televisa and said, "Listen, I left that place. I'm sorry, but I couldn't take it anymore." So I came back to Chicago. So that's the first chapter in this book.
Your stories in Iraq, and then so then you came back. I know that there's one specific incident I remember that. And you've interviewed so many people. I mean, also you covered the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh,
the Democratic Convention of '92, the Republican Convention 1987. This book goes on into so many different
because as a reporter,
right?
As in an international correspondent, I had first the responsibility,
right?
That was my job. I had to go to all those the conventions where George Bush became the Republican candidate. Then Clinton. Oh, I went to the Clinton in 19. I'm forgetting the dates. I can't believe this.
Well, they're in the book. Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah.
When Clinton became president of the United States, when he took office.
There's one, I remember also that you did mention one interesting story that I want to bring up because the popularity of the recent soap opera called Narcos. And it's about the story of Pablo Escobar. Now, you had an interesting kind of run-in where you might have had the possibility of potentially interviewing Pablo Escobar. And can you go into the detail? I remember that there was several.
Everyone loves
that story, and it's because it's popular. It's popular.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
I happen to be from Medellin, and Pablo Escobar was born nearby Medellin, Envigado, which is like a suburb of Medellin, like say here in Chicago, Lincolnwood and Chicago. I mean, Envigado is not as fancy as Lincolnwood, but it's more or less that relationship. Second,
or the proximity to Chicago.
The proximity. Yeah. Second, Fabio Ochoa, Don Fabio, the oldest, the father of the Ochoas, was a good friend of the family. He used to have own restaurant, La Margarita restaurant, and he used to own horses, not only horses to ride, but, the paso, those that go like this with beautiful, I don't know how you call them, but so he used to be a good friend of the family.
Show horses or
the paso, how do you call those?
Well, we'll find the translation.
Not running horses, right. Not those, but those who you just
parade around. It's almost like.
And my father, your grandfather, used to be a good friend of Mr. Ochoa. Third, one of Mr. Ochoa's daughter, Cristina, married one of my cousins, Leon Moncada. So, Los Ochoa, the three brothers, Fabio, Jorge, and David, were related to us, basically. I mean, they are they are not cousins, but our cousin was married to one of their sisters. I mean, to Cristina. So, when I learned that Pablo was gonna give up and go and, and
turn himself in. This was at La Catedral. This is the prison that he built for himself.
Exactly, the prison that he built for himself. So I called Medellin and I asked my father if he could talk to Mr. Ochoa. Mr. Ochoa being the father, the father of the Ochoas. Mm-hmm. If he could talk to him to see if I could go and interview Pablo, because it was on his behalf. It was on his. It was good for him to have an international person next to him.
Sure.
Because the reality was that everybody wanted to kill him. Everybody wanted to kill him. The army, the police, the mafia, you name it. Everybody wanted to kill him. So he needed somebody neutral to be next to him and with a camera. So if something happened to him, at least that was going to go all over the world.
Right.
So he called Mr. Ochoa, and Mr. Ochoa was very respected, very well respected by Pablo.
Yeah.
Pablo respected him a lot. He respected him a lot because Pablo, he didn't learn the business from him, but he was a very good friend and partner of the Ochoas, the kids.
Right.
And Mr. Ochoa, the oldest person, the father, was like the godfather almost. The godfather, let's call it like him, but without being involved.
Right.
Without being involved.
Right, he was very respected even by the kids.
Exactly.
Correct. Yeah.
So actually, he was the one who had the contact.
Sure.
With Pablo. So he said, yeah, come over. So I went to Colombia. With, remember Federico?
Yes.
Federico was my cameraman. We went to Colombia. Obviously, we were undercover. We were underground. And because if they knew we were there, then everybody will chase us to wherever Pablo was.
Of course.
Was hidden. And we stayed there for a week, 2 weeks.
Where did you stay?
Oh, we stayed in an apartment. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember the apartment that your grandfather used to have near El Parque Bolívar, La Metropolitana.
Okay.
Do you remember that? Okay. Anyway.
But you stayed there regardless, waiting for the signal.
Oh, yeah, waiting for a call. Nothing happened. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. In the meantime, I had to do something. So I went and interviewed the governor, the mayor, the city, the police chief, everybody. In the meantime, I interviewed Los Ochoa. I interviewed Marta Nieves. Marta Nieves was hijacked by the guerrilla, and Pablo liberated her from the guerrillas. That
was another daughter, wasn't it?
That was Cristina's sister. And there was another daughter from the older guy, from Ochoa's father.
Yeah.
And she was hijacked but later liberated by Pablo, by a group called MAS, Muerte a Secuestradores, which means death to hijackers.
To the kidnappers.
To kidnappers.
Kidnappers. There's a scene actually in Narcos where they're in the helicopter and they toss that out while people are in the stadium. And it says, that was, okay.
Kidnappers is the word, no hijackers.
Death to the kidnappers.
Kidnappers.
So you interviewed her.
Of course,
she's... okay, wow.
And And they kill a lot of people, bad people. I mean, they were not nice people. They were kidnappers.
Right.
And they killed
well, the paramilitary were the ones that actually ended up kidnapping her, it seems. And then Pablo worked out a deal with the guerrillas to help find her. Or no, the guerrillas stole her. No, the guerrillas kidnapped her, and then he worked out something with the paramilitaries. I'm sorry.
That's only the paramilitaries, but almost everybody that
and everyone
could
else,
help.
Yeah. Right. He worked out a deal with.
And she was liberated.
Wow. Yeah.
But anyway, and that's the person I'm telling you that is very close to us because she still is. I mean, she still is. I mean, she's there. She's our friend. Mm-hmm. You know, Christina and all them. And their kids are our nephews. So it's a family deal. However, we are not into that business, you know.
Right.
But the closeness allowed us to do that. Otherwise, it had been impossible, not, even to fly down there with a camera, especially. So that's another chapter that is here. There are many things. What about the 1994? In 1994.
Well, what happened? Did you ever get a chance to then sit down? I remember that you mentioned that there was at one point where you finally got a phone call and you went to go sit down with Mr. Ochoa and the son. And
oh yes, no, we finally received a call from Mr. Ochoa. Mr. Ochoa said, "Hey, hijo. Hey, son, see you tomorrow. Come and have lunch with us." So I went to his farm in Las Brujas, which is a farm near Medellin.
Well, a finca, right?
La Finca. So I went with my cameraman and we went to Las Brujas. And when I was coming up the entrance, there were many people, obviously armed people, you know.
Machine guns, yeah.
Machine guns all over, but, very nice. We went up, we parked in the parking lot. It was empty. Nobody was there. I said, what's this? What's going on? Okay. So Mr. Ochoa, who was a very heavy man, heavy, fat, old. He was, back then, 70, 75, I guess. Hey, mijo, how are you? Come here. Let's sit down. How are you doing? How is Chicago? Because he knew us. How is Chicago? Nice. Tell me, and what about the job that you do? They knew what I did because they saw me on television. But anyway, he asked me questions. And then he said, okay, let's have lunch. I said, okay, let's have lunch. So Federico, Mr. Ochoa and I went and sat down in a large table, like for 30 people or more. Large, huge table. We sat down there. Mr. Ochoa at the front of the table.
Well, at the head of the table.
At the head of the table, that's correct. And we were sitting here. I said, what's going on? Before you know, in less than 3 minutes, it was full. Filled up all the way. Who were there? Mr. Ochoa's boys.
Yeah. Pablo's. They were members of the Medellin cartel.
Yeah. But to Mr. Ochoa, they were
his kids,
his children.
Yeah.
And they were with their wives and his grandchildren, including our sobrinos, nephews,
right?
Those who they are. So they sat down. We had that delicious lunch. We talk about sports. We talk about everything. And when everybody was finished, done, everybody just left. They stand up and left.
At the exact same time, yeah.
And I said, and what is this? I said, oh, no. Every day, the family got together at lunchtime. The most the most how would you say, the most looked after,
the most wanted by the
most wanted
by the government, by the U.S. government,
by the U.S. government, by the DEA, by all over the world. The most wanted people in the world, and they had lunch with mom and dad and the family at the table,
the children, everyone,
the children, everybody, every day. Period. As simple as that. And so they stood up and left, and I stayed with Mr. Ochoa, and he said, "Okay, mijo, I give you a call. I mean, they were not too explicit, or they kind of, because they I suppose they never know if they knew who I was, but they never know who was behind me or anything.
Right.
So they couldn't be very, very open.
Right, you could be working for the DEA.
Yeah,
you could be working on behalf of the FBI. Well, more than like the DEA, but or the CIA. I mean, they have no idea.
Actually, I went too far. I mean, I don't think there was anybody else alive that could go that far, could get that close to them, because after all, they treat me as a member of the family.
Right.
As simple as that. So, in 1994, Chicago was the city for the World Cup, was the place for the World Cup, which is a worldwide event. Very, very, very important event. And we also had the opportunity to cover that. That's a very important event, which is also here in this book, what happened in 1994.
Amazing. So it's unbelievable just to see the timeline of how your life takes place. I mean, it's unbelievable that you start from Medellin with never having set foot on U.S. soil, then from going to Ohio, graduating with your MBA at the young age of 20, 21, 22, going to work for Leo Burnett. Then from there, starting your own advertising agency. From there, that closes down. You start your other agency because you get screwed by this other guy. And then, to put it, the only way I can think of. And then now you're interviewing you started interviewing politicians and presidential nominees, candidates, potentially Pablo Escobar. I mean, life really snowballs.
Yeah, but if you let it, I mean, you have to.
But you have to work for it.
Work for it, and you always have to be open for those opportunities. Opportunities show, and you should not, or you cannot let them pass by. Well, as a matter of fact, today, what we have today is a great opportunity for everybody. For those who...
You're saying with COVID going on?
With COVID going on and what is happening today, it's a great opportunity for those people who, with a vision, with a desire to succeed.
They finally have the time. They can try to figure out how to work from home. They can, there's always going to be opportunity. You have to have the will and the push and the drive.
And believe in yourself.
Most importantly, believe in yourself.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So let's see what else. You want to talk about the book?
Well, let's first off, what we've talked a lot about some of the stories. Where can someone pick this up?
Oh, it's in Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, they can go through Amazon.
We're gonna put the link actually on the comments tab or in the description, so you're gonna see that we're gonna have a link for the book. Okay. It's actually in Spanish.
No, but that's not a big deal.
But if anyone wants a copy in English, we can gladly get that.
Yeah, sure.
Transcribed for them as well.
I put it in English. If there are people who want it in English, I do that. That's no problem. But it's in Spanish. And it's in Amazon. All you have to do is go just to Amazon Book and then look for the title, Yo. You know, the title, Yo. And there is only one Yo. Yo means I. And that's it. And here it is. And you will recognize it immediately because look what I have in the cover. You have the United States and the Colombian flag. Why? Because I am a U.S. and a Colombian citizen, both. I have a dual nationality. Then I have our logo, Gil and Gil, since 1980. That's when I started Gil and Gil, 1980. 1980, let's see, I was born in December 25th, 1957, 57, but in December, so it's actually 58. I was 22 when I started Gil and Gil. 22. Then,
which we didn't really go into some of the accomplishments. Gil also you've hosted the first Colombian parade and picnics here in Chicago.
Yes,
you know, that's another adventure that you're gonna, another chapter. I mean, this is something that we can go on for hours and hours and hours.
I mean, those who like to gossip, and there are pictures. Unfortunately, this is our first book, so we didn't have much experience with the publishers. Even though everything is in here and the pictures are there, I will love to have them
a little bit more higher quality.
But it's okay because with the second edition, which is already out, the pictures are much better. And guess what? There is another book coming, which I want to announce. I love it. In this book, there is also a chapter called how will you put that in Spanish, in English? My loves? No. My women?
So what's it? Say it in Spanish, and then we'll see.
Mis amores.
Mis amores. The loves, my loves.
My loved ones.
My loved ones.
Yeah, but my loved ones could be you, my children.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about here.
The woman of your life.
The women of my life. And I talk about, for example, your mother, which is the best woman in the world. She was very good. I have never, nothing to say about her.
Except for that she's a bad student. All right. We're good? Okay. So, as you were saying, there's a latest edition, or you're writing a new book.
Yeah, I'm writing a new book. And the new book has to do with, it's like a novel about what is happening today with the COVID-19.
Yeah.
And what I'm living, because it happens that I just got married again with my beautiful wife. You know, you met her. And we just got married 2 days ago.
Want to say hello?
Hey, come over here. Her name is Liliana. But, you know, I was thinking just a couple of days ago, this is crazy. This is a novel on itself, you know.
Right.
Everything, what we have gone through. We were getting married when you were there.
Yeah.
Suddenly there was a helicopter going, on top of us.
Right, at the exact same moment, yeah.
Checking us out. It's crazy. Not only that, but then all of us with masks.
With the masks. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time.
And then to get here, the airplane, getting in Florida, my sister, for example, Sorayita, I couldn't go and see her and embrace her. There are so many things that are happening that are different.
Sure.
And I wanna live. I wanna write a story on that.
Amazing.
I wanna write a story, and so people 10 years, 20 years from now, or even next year, they remember and never forget how was life.
In 2020.
In 2020. And I lived it. And I lived it with...
Right.
And so there is a writer, Nobel Prize, by the way, Colombian-born, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who wrote a story called Love in Times of Cholera. Cholera being a virus or a bacteria that kill many people. So love in time of cholera. And I want to write a novel called Love in Times of COVID. And it's going to be our story, how we live it together, and what has happened. And it's going to be, I promise that it's going to be out there.
It's going to be the second bestseller. This is the first.
The second bestseller is going to be Love in Times of COVID. It's going to be out there by December.
Amazing. You see, that's what I'm talking about. It's you're always taking on another goal, another, like you said, you reach for the stars, right? And there's one thing that I can admire about you, and not just me, but everyone else that knows you, is that you always have goals. You always accomplish your goals, and no matter how big they are, you're not shy about setting high targets and about, having ambitious projections and pictures and plans. So that's something that we admire, and that's actually something that's very inspirational. With that in mind, we just want to say thank you. Thank you so much again for, taking the time to be on the show and letting the audience know about your book. But most importantly, the messages, the message that you provide throughout the book, right? Because there's a lot of people here that have too many excuses on why things don't work or why it's too difficult. And I think you show them with your own life story. You're the perfect example of why, it can work if you just believe in yourself.
Not only on yourself, but your spirit. At this moment in my life, I'm not the same as I used to be 20, 30 years ago. Full of life, health, and all that. At this moment, I lack many things. For example, my health is very deteriorated. I lost my left foot. I'm sorry.
Your left leg, yeah.
Yeah, my left leg. My sight is also deteriorated. But guess what? I just married a beautiful woman. Look at her. And why? Because I'm full of life.
That's right.
And I inspire energy and love. And that's the most important thing. The most important thing is what you got here inside and in your mind and your head. If those two things are right, the rest is not important. So if I could leave that message to your audience and the people who are watching, and I hope they really take advantage of who they are, period. And just do it. There is a commercial, I think it's Nike, that says that, just do it.
That's right.
And that's most people just talk and never do anything. Do it. It might not come out right, but at least you try.
That's right.
And then you try to correct it, but just do it.
With that, we're going to leave. We're going to finish the podcast. It was great.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And if you like what you heard, please, as always, give us that like and subscribe to the channel. And Pa, thank you so much again.
Thank
or
you
Mr.
for
Gil, Mr. Juan Guillermo Gilgil, I should say.
No, say Pa, always.
All right.
You are always my kid, and I will be always your dad.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And
love you.
Love you too.